Okay, so now the torso is pretty much complete.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to go ahead and move on, and we're going to go ahead and throw some shoulders and arms in there. I mean, he's got some legs.
Absolutely.
It's only fair if we go ahead and take care of the shoulders and arms.
Absolutely. You know, you can't really go in there and have a drink or anything if you can't grab a glass.
Yeah, it'd be kind of difficult.
We got to help this guy out a little bit. You know, right? He doesn't even have a neck right now.
Not that he has a drinking problem or anything.
Exactly.
Well,
you know, I'm looking right now. He's going to have a hard time having a drinking problem, but we'll get to that.
Exactly.
Just one step at a time. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my cut tool out. And we're going to be making a series of some weird cuts, but we'll start off by going across the shoulder here to this point at the front of the pectoral. We're going to continue it around to the very front of the pectoral. This will help later when we're tweaking if we need to round that thing out anymore anyways. And then we're going to split underneath the armpit and back here to this point at the back of the arm. What this is going to do is go ahead and give us a base shape that we're going to eventually turn into the arm itself. So now this is going to look really funny for those of you who don't model too much by moving vertices around, so don't get scared. We're going to take this point here at the very center of the armpit, and we're going to move it way up into the air. Basically, this is going to become the top of the shoulder, and it looks really funny right now. In fact, let me switch off NURMS and show you exactly how bad it does look. We'll switch edge faces back on. It looks kind of weird to have these faces kind of showing like this. We're just going to pull it to center it up a little bit. No worries. We'll actually clean this up as we go along. So now we're going to make some more cuts to fix a few of our problems. We'll make a cut here from the corner of the shoulder right out to this edge. And another cut from this corner also out to its corresponding edge like so. We'll grab the new vertices that we just made. And we won't move them in XY because they kind of go out into nowhere.
Right.
We will move them in YZ. And you can see how this is already starting to round things out just a bit. Take this vertex here at the front. We're going to drag it back a little bit. You notice we got a little bit of a funny issue going on here at the corner of the pectoral muscle. That's fine. That's actually going to play into our favor a little bit later when we're cutting in detail. I am going to make a cut from that corner down here to this corner, and we'll actually make our arm out of these faces. This point here we'll use to kind of reshape this rib to make sure it doesn't fold into our arm too much. So we're also going to take this cut here, the one that we made here across the front of the pectoral. We'll continue it up across to the back. Actually, let me undo that real quick. Sorry about that. We'll continue it back here to this vertex. And this is going to help us again in rounding out our shoulder. So now let's go ahead and start moving around some of our detail. I'm going to go back to our back view. Get my move tool out. Start marquee selecting and start off by kind of moving some vertices down to kind of get them out of the way so we can see where we need to move stuff. You can see I'm just kind of marquee selecting and moving things to match the drawing. So nothing really all that hardcore just yet. So we can grab these guys and pull them forward. Now you see where that detail is coming in handy because it's giving us a much more rounded shape. So that's looking pretty good there. We'll go back to our perspective view and start playing with what we've got. We've got a little bit of nastiness going on with this face right here that I'm going to fix by taking a cut from here straight forward to this edge. It doesn't matter if we have vertices that end on this edge because we're about to extrude this out into an arm shape in the first place. So that's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead though and we'll take that vertex we just made and we'll pull it out a little bit. It's also making kind of a nice crevice, if you will, between the shoulder muscle and the pectoral muscle, which is going to help make this a little more natural. Kind of edit things around to smooth things out, make sure stuff is spaced out. It doesn't have to be perfectly even, but having drastic changes in your low-resolution model is never a good thing to do when you're smoothing. So this is already looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and count up the edges we have around our shape. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. No, missed that one. Kind of went out there in Nowheresville. Undo that one. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sides is going to be perfect for our arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I miscount? Looks like I did.
I was wondering.
Zach can't count. That's
Zach
fine.
was looking at Buzz, and Buzz was giving him a very strange look.
Actually, Buzz was giving him the finger. No, I'm just kidding.
I was not.
Anyway, so actually, I meant to have 8, and I've got 7. It's no problem. I never learned to count. What we're going to do is just make a single cut to go ahead and boost it up to 8. And really, I intended to make this cut in the first place and just didn't. So we'll,
Sure
he did. So we're going to go from the center of the shoulder blade out here to this edge at the arm. That will add in another edge. And I'm not even going to give Buzz the pleasure of counting those out again. We now know that there are 8 faces. So I'll go back to vertex subobject mode, and I'm just going to kind of move things around a little bit to give a nice rounded area to our arm section. Pull this guy out just a little more. So it's looking pretty good. So now, once again, what we need to do is flatten this out so that we can extrude straight out from our shape. So I'm going to go to polygon subobject mode, select both of these faces, and we can go to either the left or a right view if you had one open for some reason. And under Edit Geometry, we've got the View Align button. Make sure you're in a left view when you do this. If you're not, at least make sure the left view is active. As you can see, we can do this in the 4 view, and we can go ahead and look at the left view and think to ourselves, let's align it to left. And when we hit the button, all kinds of crazy stuff happens because we just actually aligned it to the perspective. So make sure you are indeed in the left view when you do that. So click left, hit View Align. Things get flattened up very nicely. So now if we come back in here to perspective, we'll see that this is indeed a flat level surface that we can extrude from. Everything's looking pretty good. So with that face still selected, I'm going to go into my back view again, kind of scroll out a little bit so we can see the entire arm. And we're going to hit extrude. And once again, I'm going to do a numeric extrusion. Not quite far enough, but that looks pretty good. And we'll go ahead and hit OK. So this is looking all right. We might want to go ahead and tweak some of the edges we have in here, just like we did with the legs, to make it fill a little more volume of our drawing arm a little bit. We can also make this transparent. Make sure we select all of our polygons here, and we'll go ahead and use our slice plane to add in some detail. So we get the magical slice plane, and let's rotate this guy in Y a little bit. About 90 degrees, so he's a nice flat line. So I'm going to put a slice right about here at the bicep. We'll make one just above the elbow, and then another one just below the elbow. And then I'll make 2 more to designate the forearm. We'll come back here to the elbow, and I'll make a cut right in the middle of it, and then I'll bisect each one of those 2 little areas I just created. Then I'll switch off my slice plane. That should be all the detail we need to fully flesh out this arm, if you will. Alright. So we'll come in here to our front view. That's a crazy voice time. And I'm going to start shaping these guys around a little bit. I'm just going to kind of marquee select. I'll pull these verts here at the shoulder forward. And the reason for this is this will create the illusion that our shoulder muscles are blending a little more naturally into our arm. Grab these vertices, scale them down, and relocate them. You can also pull these vertices down a little bit to help out. I'm going to take all of the vertices at the elbow, center them up on the elbow itself, and then scale all of them down simultaneously. And I'll get to shaping each individual row of vertices here in just a moment. So we'll scale these guys down and move them just a bit. And do the same thing with both of these guys. So scale down, relocate. Starting to get pretty close. Maybe scale them down a little more. Our alien guy's got some pretty skinny little arms. Not a very buff guy, but that's looking pretty good from a front view. Let's come in here to the elbow and start tweaking things around. I'll start marquee selecting these vertices, and we'll make kind of a pinch on each side of the elbow. I'm going to go back to a perspective now, and we'll shade this guy up so we don't see through him. And here at the front of the elbow, I'm going to take the vertices and kind of spread them away from each other to get a division in the bicep. You can also kind of pull these guys up a little bit. So that'll help me kind of shape things out a little better. So I'll take these guys at the center of the elbow. We'll pull them away from the elbow just a bit, just so that the arm more naturally blends from the elbow into the upper and lower arms. Now, those of you who have been following along with me realize that we do not have a visual reference for the top of the arm. That's going to be pretty common unless you've actually created some image planes from the top view, and in this case we haven't, so that's fine. We're just going to kind of wing this. So I'll scroll around here to the top to our very cylindrical-looking arm.
Vacuum cleaner arm.
Vacuum cleaner arm. That's dedicated to Derek Stevens. And it's a little bit of an internal joke. We'll go ahead and pull this down just so that we have one row of vertices that lines up with the center of our elbow. We'll pull these down up here as well. And Zach gets quiet while he models. We need some kind of cool music we can turn on, you know, while we're working. Alright, so go ahead and start pulling this in here at the elbow. I'll just kind of start at the front of the arm and kind of work my way back. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Which actually leads into a point I wanted to make earlier on in the VTM. The methods that I'm using here are not by any means the only way to model a character. As you get out and you start experimenting and using some of these tools and techniques that we've shown, you might find that your style might differ a little bit from mine, or it might be a little comfortable for you to make something a little more differently than I have, and that's perfectly all right. Modeling is an awful lot like drawing. It's just you're doing it in 3D, and everybody's got a different style as they work, as long as you keep a few fundamentals in mind as you go. So pull these guys forward. Pull these guys forward. Got a bit of a pinched elbow now. Rotate around. Be great. We'll get a letter from somebody being like, you know, I'm getting a little sick from watching your VTMs and you flip around the viewport so much. We'll pull this back vertex up, and this is actually going to help us make a little more of a developed tricep. We'll blend this down into the forearm a little better. And let's go ahead and switch on NURMS and see what this is looking like.
All right.
So we've got the arm here in most of its beauty, looking pretty good. Now, most arms, you know, if you hold your arm out and just kind of look down the length of it, you'll notice that it is going to be a little wider from front to back than it is from top to bottom. So we've actually already got that. That's pretty good. So I'm going to switch off edged faces real quick with F4 so we can kind of see how these edges are shaped. Since you guys don't have a visual reference for making this arm look like any kind of a picture, I'm just going to take a second and let you kind of see how things are shaped. Let me go ahead and first we'll check our drawing. Make sure things are lining up well with our drawing. So let's check out our NURM surface. Looking pretty good. We just got to tweak a few things. We'll pull these guys down. We'll go ahead and marquee all of these and tug them down a little bit. Just thicken our arm up a tad. That's looking much better. Maybe we'll take these guys and kind of tuck them down a little bit, have a little bit more of a crease in between our shoulder and our bicep area. Relocate this vertex a little bit. So now I'm going to shade this up. I'm going to switch off NURMS. And with edge faces on, I'm just going to give you guys a few moments to look at our arm. Here's just a quick tweaking problem real quick. We have two vertices that are very close together. We need to go ahead and kind of get rid of those. So what I'm going to do is select both of them. And we'll go all the way back up here to our collapse button and just take care of them. So I'm just going to show everybody, let you kind of see how this arm is placed. And so you can see how the vertices are lined up. we'll pull this guy down a little bit, kind of take care of some of this kink. Move this around. There it is from a front view.
I think you've pretty much got it.
I'm thinking so. I'm just kind of panning around so that everybody gets a chance to see this.
Oh, I see.
And there we go. And that's going to pretty much take care of the arm.
Yeah, I think that wraps up the shoulder, the arm, and you got legs now, a torso. Man, things are really coming along.
Yeah.
It's looking great, Zach.
All
So
right.
that's going to go ahead and wrap this lesson up. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.